To understand the zone of silence, you first have to understand the stories that built it into one of Mexico's strangest modern legends. This desert expanse, located in the Bolson de Mapimi, overlaps the northern part of Durango and edges into Chihuahua and Coahuila. It's an arid region marked by flat scrublands and salt flats. But what sets it apart isn't its appearance. It's the tales of bizarre physical phenomena. The most well-known claim is that radio waves refuse to pass through this region. Visitors say the moment they cross into it, their car radios die, walkie-talkies refuse to transmit, and phones become nothing more than digital bricks. That silence, they say, is not just metaphorical, it's literal. Next come the compass anomalies. Travelers and explorers have long insisted that compasses spin erratically within the zone. Instead of pointing due north, the needle allegedly wavers or points in random directions, making reliable navigation nearly impossible. While compasses can be affected by nearby mineral content in the minds of believers, this has become evidence of some kind of magnetic disturbance or vortex in the region. And then there's the spectacle in the skies. This patch of desert has long had a reputation for being a magnet for aerial phenomena. Multiple sightings of fireballs streaking across the sky, sometimes described as low-flying orbs or meteor-like objects that hover, have been reported for decades. Some witnesses describe these as silent and smooth-moving, suggesting intelligent control. Others describe fireballs trailing smoke, behaving like they are rolling down hills or bouncing off the desert floor, leaving no scorch marks. Perhaps the most memorable folklore concerns the so-called Nordic visitors. These legends describe a trio, 2 men and 1 woman, who are unnaturally tall, pale-skinned, and blonde. They appear deep within the desert, always inappropriately dressed for the brutal heat, and always eerily calm. According to numerous local accounts, they ask for nothing more than water, speak fluent Spanish, and vanish shortly after, often without leaving footprints in the sand. Some ranchers have even claimed that they've interacted with them on multiple occasions, always with the same polite requests and mysterious exits. Finally, the biological oddities. Tourists and paranormal investigators report seeing cacti twisted into unnatural shapes and lizards that appear in unusual hues of bright blue or orange. These animals are often said to be mutations caused by radiation or cosmic energy. Though no formal evidence supports these claims, the biodiversity of the area, especially within the Mapimi Biosphere Reserve, has helped reinforce the idea that this place isn't quite like anywhere else on Earth. All of these claims, radio silence, magnetic confusion, strange lights, and mysterious figures, have layered together over the decades to form a rich legend. But unlike most ghost stories or UFO tales, this one has an actual historical origin point, and it didn't begin with anything supernatural. It began with a man looking for oil and an offhand comment that would spark one of the most persistent myths in modern Mexican folklore. The story of the Zone of Silence began not with folklore, but with an accident high above the Earth. In July of 1970, the United States Air Force launched a test rocket from the Green River Launch Complex in Utah. The rocket was a modified Athena RTV, part of a long-range ballistic test designed to measure how nuclear materials would behave during re-entry. It was never intended to land in Mexico. Its planned trajectory should have carried it over New Mexico and into the White Sands missile range, but something went wrong. The rocket veered dramatically off course. For reasons that were never fully explained publicly, it soared southward across the border, traveling more than 400 miles from its target. It crashed into the desert in northern Durango, in the very area that would later become known as the Zone of Silence. The warhead it carried did not detonate. It was non-nuclear, but it did contain small amounts of cobalt-60, a radioactive isotope. The impact left a shallow crater, and the United States quickly dispatched a recovery team. What followed was one of the largest joint cleanup operations between the United States and Mexico during peacetime. American personnel, with permission from the Mexican government, entered the area with radiation detection equipment, trucks, and helicopters. The debris was collected over several weeks, and tons of contaminated soil were reportedly removed and shipped back to the United States in sealed containers. It was during this mission that the phrase "Zone of Silence" was first publicly used, though not in any scientific context. The name was coined casually by American engineers after they noticed that their communications equipment frequently malfunctioned. Radios lost signal, walkie-talkies produced only static, At first, they assumed it was due to faulty batteries or equipment damage during the crash, but the failures kept happening, seemingly only within a specific radius. Outside that zone, everything worked as expected. Inside, silence. There was never an official statement confirming that these anomalies were caused by anything unusual. Most scientists attributed the communication failures to natural interference from the area's high concentration of magnetite, a naturally magnetic mineral found in the soil. Others pointed to atmospheric conditions or topographical quirks, but the name stuck. La Zona del Silencio, and the seeds of myth had been planted. The presence of radioactive debris only added to the speculation. Although the contamination was minimal and contained, rumors quickly spread among locals that something dangerous or unnatural had landed in their desert. Ranchers spoke of strange equipment and men in hazmat suits. Some claimed their livestock had started behaving erratically in the weeks after the crash. Whether these were real observations or the early stirrings of legend is difficult to separate now, but one thing was certain: a mysterious region had just been given a name, and a modern legend had been born. What makes the Zone of Silence different from the rest of the Chihuahuan Desert is not just what happens above ground, but what lies beneath it. Geologists studying the area have long noted that the region's physical makeup is unusually complex. Beneath the parched soil stretches a thick layer of sedimentary rock, riddled with deposits of magnetite and other iron-rich minerals. These elements can distort magnetic fields, disrupt radio signals, and create pockets of natural interference, exactly the kind of anomalies that gave the zone its name. The Zone of Silence also lies along what is known as the Mapimi Basin, an ancient seabed that existed more than 100 million years ago during the Cretaceous period. Fossilized marine life can still be found in the region: ammonites, bivalves, and coral, frozen in stone beneath layers of desert dust. This geologic evidence supports the theory that the entire area was once submerged under a shallow inland sea. Over millions of years, tectonic shifts and gradual uplift exposed the seafloor, transforming it into one of the driest regions in North America. Adding to the geological mystery is the unusually high concentration of meteorite fragments found in the area. Scientists from the Mexican Geological Service and various universities have recovered nickel-iron meteorites and tektites, glassy remnants formed when a meteor impacts the Earth's surface at high speed. These findings are not random. The Zone of Silence sits near the same latitudinal belt as other magnetic anomalies, including the Bermuda Triangle and the Egyptian pyramids, while there is no proven connection between them. The coincidence has led some researchers to investigate whether Earth's geomagnetic patterns might be stronger or more concentrated along certain invisible lines. The area is also rich in fulgurites, hardened tubes of glass formed when lightning strikes sand or rock. These lightning-formed structures suggest an unusually high number of electrical storms despite the arid climate. Some atmospheric scientists speculate that the mineral composition of the ground could influence the frequency or intensity of lightning in the region. Others believe it is simply a convergence of natural variables, altitude, wind currents, and moisture, that produce violent but localized weather. In recent decades, environmental scientists have raised questions about how these geologic and magnetic conditions affect local biology. Several species of plants found in the zone exhibit unusual growth patterns. For example, some cacti grow in spiral formations instead of upright spines. A type of purple desert shrub found only in the area appears to have higher concentrations of selenium in its tissues than similar plants outside the zone. While these traits may be the result of adaptation to mineral-rich soils, they remain largely unexplained. All of this points to one conclusion. The Zone of Silence is not just a cultural oddity or a place of folklore. It is a region shaped by extreme and overlapping forces: geological, magnetic, and biological. Scientists continue to explore these layers, not in search of the paranormal, but in pursuit of something equally fascinating: understanding how Earth's most remote and hostile environments can still hold secrets waiting to be uncovered. While the terrain of the Zone of Silence reveals much about its unusual geology, it is what occurs in the sky above that has puzzled researchers and visitors for decades. The region has become known for an unusually high number of aerial anomalies, phenomena that include unidentified lights, erratic flight paths of aircraft, and atmospheric disturbances that defy conventional explanation. Although most reports remain anecdotal, a pattern has emerged over time that keeps scientists and skeptics alike intrigued. One of the most commonly reported experiences by pilots flying over the area is the sudden failure of navigational instruments. Small aircraft passing directly over the zone have occasionally encountered brief periods of compass deviation, radio signal loss, or erratic altimeter readings. While these malfunctions are typically temporary and resolve once the aircraft leaves the affected zone, they suggest an environmental factor capable of interfering with airborne technology. Unlike most flight-related electromagnetic issues, which often originate from known sources like power lines or weather systems, no such sources exist in the isolated desert stretch of the Mapimi Biosphere Reserve. Perhaps even more intriguing is the number of reported fireballs, bright streaks of light, seen traversing the sky, often silently and without any known source. Astronomers have confirmed that the zone of silence lies beneath a frequent path of meteoric activity, particularly during annual showers like the Perseids and Geminids. However, observers have noted unusual fireball sightings outside of these peak times, including slow-moving or multicolored objects that change direction in midair. These anomalies, while unverified by instruments, continue to attract amateur astronomers and scientific observers to the region. In the early 1970s, American researchers studying atmospheric conditions in the region recorded irregular bursts of gamma radiation using portable detectors. While the readings were inconsistent and did not exceed dangerous levels, they raised questions about whether there could be a natural source for these emissions, such as uranium deposits or cosmic radiation deflected by the Earth's magnetic field. To date, no definitive explanation has been found, though Mexican geophysicists continue to monitor radiation levels as part of broader environmental studies. The cloud patterns above the zone are also worth noting. Satellite images taken over the last few decades have occasionally shown circular or semicircular cloud formations hovering over the region. Meteorologists suggest these may be caused by thermal updrafts created by the region's intense ground heat, interacting with higher altitude winds. These formations resemble lenticular clouds, often mistaken for unidentified flying objects, and may contribute to the visual mystery of the place. However, their regular appearance over this specific patch of desert is still not fully understood. Ball lightning, a rare and poorly understood electrical phenomenon, has also been reported in the zone of silence more frequently than in surrounding areas. Witnesses describe glowing orbs hovering close to the ground during storms, often without the presence of rain. While scientists acknowledge ball lightning as real, its cause remains one of the most elusive mysteries in atmospheric physics. Whether the zone of silence somehow creates conditions favorable to its formation remains speculative. All these skybound anomalies point to the zone's layered complexity. While none individually prove the presence of unexplained forces, the combined pattern of electromagnetic interference, unusual aerial sightings, and atmospheric anomalies continue to make the area a focal point for both scientific inquiry and natural curiosity. The sky over the zone of silence is not merely empty desert air, it is a dynamic, often unpredictable space where Earth and atmosphere interact in strange and fascinating ways. Beyond its mysterious electromagnetic and atmospheric phenomena, the zone of silence is also a biological treasure trove, home to an ecosystem unlike any other in Mexico or the world. This remote desert region, part of the larger Mapimi Biosphere Reserve, established in 1994, protects a variety of endemic species, plants and animals found nowhere else on Earth. One of the most striking features of this ecosystem is its remarkable biodiversity, despite the harsh conditions. The area is dominated by xerophytic vegetation, plants adapted to survive with very little water. Among these, several species of cactus display unusual growth forms and pigmentation. For example, the fair cactus hystrix, a barrel cactus native to the region, often grows in twisted shapes that have been misinterpreted by visitors as mutated or altered by external forces. These natural variations result from the adaptation to intense sunlight, irregular rainfall, and mineral-rich soil. The fauna is equally fascinating. The zone is home to several species of reptiles, including the Mapimi rattlesnake and the black iguana, which exhibit coloration that helps them blend into the rocky terrain. Small mammals like the desert cottontail rabbit and various rodent species have also adapted to this arid environment. Researchers have documented behavioral adaptations too, such as nocturnal activity patterns, that help animals avoid the extreme daytime heat. The region's isolation has encouraged evolutionary pathways, resulting in unique genetic traits. Studies of certain lizard populations here have revealed genetic markers not found in related species elsewhere, suggesting long-term geographic and reproductive isolation. This makes the zone of silence an invaluable natural laboratory for evolutionary biologists studying speciation and adaptation. The soil chemistry is another component shaping the zone's ecosystem. The desert floor is rich in minerals like magnetite and gypsum, influencing plant growth and soil microbial communities. These unique soil conditions contribute to the specialized nature of the flora and fauna and affect the overall health and resilience of the ecosystem. Importantly, the Biosphere Reserve Management has taken steps to monitor and protect this delicate environment from threats such as illegal mining, poaching, and unregulated tourism. Conservation efforts include research stations staffed by biologists and ecologists who conduct ongoing studies to better understand how this ecosystem functions and how best to preserve it. In sum, the Zone of Silence is not just a site of curious physical phenomena, but a vibrant, living landscape that continues to surprise scientists. Its complex web of life, thriving in an extreme environment, adds a vital dimension to the region's enduring mystery and fascination. As we conclude our journey through Mexico's Zone of Silence, it becomes clear that this enigmatic place is less about paranormal phenomena and more about the fascinating interplay between nature, history, and human perception. The myths that have surrounded the region for decades are powerful stories, but the true intrigue lies in the scientific realities that continue to captivate researchers and visitors alike. One of the most compelling features of the zone is its geological complexity. The area sits at the convergence of three tectonic plates: the North American Plate, the Pacific Plate, and the smaller Rivera Plate. This convergence creates a dynamic seismic zone, which contributes to the area's unique magnetic anomalies and contributes to the shifting geology beneath the surface. Although not a major earthquake hotspot, small tremors and subtle land movements have been recorded since detailed monitoring began in the late 1970s. In addition to the geology, the zone's atmospheric conditions are notable. Its remote desert location and high altitude, averaging around 1,100 meters above sea level, create a clear, dry climate with minimal light pollution. This makes it one of the best places in Mexico for observing meteor showers and celestial events such as the Perseids and Geminids, which visitors report with great frequency. The combination of frequent meteor sightings and the desert's reflective surface enhances the area's reputation as a cosmic hotspot. On the technological side, modern experiments have demonstrated that while radio and satellite signals can be temporarily interrupted by terrain, the so-called silence is not unique to this region. Scientists have shown that similar signal losses occur in other mountainous desert regions around the world, reinforcing the idea that the Zone of Silence phenomenon is a natural consequence of geography rather than a supernatural force. Despite the debunking of many myths, the zone remains a place of wonder, partly because it reveals how human culture creates narratives to explain what is initially unknown or frightening. The blending of Cold War history, natural geology, unusual biology, and human storytelling makes the Zone of Silence a perfect example of how legends are born and evolve. Today, the Mapimi Biosphere Reserve continues to support scientific research, conservation, and ecotourism, inviting visitors to experience firsthand the beauty and mystery of this remote desert. The zone's lessons are clear. Science and myth are not always opposing forces, but can coexist, enriching our understanding of the world and the stories we tell about it. In the end, Mexico's Zone of Silence teaches us that sometimes the most compelling mysteries are those where nature's complexity outshines the lure of the supernatural. It is a place where silence speaks volumes about history, earth science, and the human imagination. Located in the eastern reaches of the Bay of Bengal, North Sentinel Island is one of the most geographically secluded and culturally enigmatic places on Earth. Measuring approximately 60 square kilometers, the island is part of the Andaman and Nicobar archipelago, an Indian Union territory composed of more than 500 islands. North Sentinel stands apart both physically and symbolically. It is encircled by a jagged ring of coral reefs that make it extremely difficult to approach by boat. There are no natural harbors or welcoming coves, and its shallow coastal shelf coupled with powerful tidal surges, creates a constantly shifting aquatic barrier. Even experienced navigators can find themselves at the mercy of these hidden dangers. From aerial imagery, the island appears as a dense green mass, its interior entirely cloaked by tropical rainforest. No roads cut through the foliage. No buildings pierce the canopy. There are no visible signs of agriculture or animal domestication. It is, in every sense, a place visually frozen in time, untouched by the mechanized sprawl of modern civilization. While satellite surveillance has confirmed some minimal footpaths and clearings, these are the only visible indications of human presence. Unlike nearby islands, which have been developed for tourism, infrastructure, or habitation, North Sentinel remains locked in a state of deep, deliberate inaccessibility. Despite its obscurity, North Sentinel is surrounded by an unmistakable aura of both danger and fascination. The Indian government enforces a strict no-access policy with a 5 nautical mile buffer zone surrounding the island. Aircraft are prohibited from flying overhead at low altitude, and sea vessels are required to steer well clear. This legal framework is not just a bureaucratic shield, it is a life-preserving necessity. The people who live on this island, known as the Sentinelese, have had minimal to no sustained contact with the outside world and possess no natural immunity to common pathogens. Even a minor cold could prove catastrophic if introduced to their community. Geologists believe the island is a product of ancient volcanic activity, now dormant and overtaken by thick jungle. Its isolation has likely protected rare plant and animal species, some of which may be undocumented due to the total absence of on-foot scientific exploration. The surrounding waters are biologically rich, fed by monsoonal currents and tidal upwellings that support coral reefs and seagrass beds, vital resources for shallow water fishing, which the island's inhabitants rely on. The island's remoteness, combined with its strict legal protection and the absolute rejection of outsiders by its people, has created a unique paradox. In a world where even the most remote corners are mapped and monitored, here lies a place that remains, by choice and necessity, largely unknown. And within that unknown, North Sentinel continues to resist not only physical entry, but also cultural comprehension. The Sentinelese are among the last known groups of humans to have avoided sustained contact with the outside world. Based on limited observations from a distance, their estimated population ranges from as few as 50 to as many as 150 individuals. However, due to the island's inaccessibility and the people's resistance to any approach, these estimates remain speculative. Unlike many other isolated groups around the world, the Sentinelese have not been studied up close, and no anthropological fieldwork has been conducted directly among them. Their language remains entirely unclassified. It does not resemble any of the known languages spoken by other tribes in the Andaman Islands, such as the Jarawa or the Ongsh. Linguists believe it could be a linguistic isolate, meaning it is unrelated to any other language family known to exist. This further emphasizes the possibility that the Sentinelese have been cut off for thousands of years, maintaining a unique cultural and linguistic identity that has evolved independently. Their tools are simple but purposeful. Observations have shown that they use spears, arrows, and rudimentary knives, many of which are tipped with metal salvaged from shipwrecks that have run aground on their reefs. This scavenged material is shaped and used without evidence of smelting or metalworking, suggesting a Stone Age level technological base with rare adaptations made from modern debris. Clothing is minimal, often limited to plant-based belts or adornments, and there is no visible sign of pottery, writing, or agriculture. Despite their technological simplicity, the Sentinelese demonstrate complex behavior in terms of territory defense, group organization, and tool use. They construct temporary shelters along the shoreline and appear to have designated lookout points. When outsiders have approached, responses have been quick and coordinated, indicating a strong sense of communal awareness and decision-making. There are no known photographs of the island's interior or its people taken from ground level in recent years. Most sightings have been from helicopters or distant boats, with the Sentinelese often retreating into the jungle if they sense surveillance. Their elusive behavior has only added to the air of mystery surrounding them, making it impossible to confirm how they govern themselves. What their spiritual beliefs may be, or how their society is structured, the Sentinelese are protected not only by geographical isolation, but also by international law. India recognizes them as a sovereign people and forbids any attempt to make contact. This legal barrier is designed to safeguard their health, autonomy, and way of life. With no immunity to modern diseases, even a short visit could result in a deadly outbreak. As a result, the Sentinelese remain a rare example of a community that exists beyond the influence of globalization. They are living proof that human cultures can survive, independently, resiliently, and on their own terms when left undisturbed. Their continued existence raises powerful questions about human diversity, cultural boundaries, and the ethics of exploration in the 21st century. Human interaction with North Sentinel Island has always been rare and often dangerous. The earliest recorded mention of the island came in the year 1880, when British colonial officer Maurice Vidal Portman led an expedition to the island as part of his efforts to study the indigenous tribes of the Andaman Islands. Portman and his team captured 6 Sentinelese individuals, 2 elderly people and 4 children, and brought them to Port Blair, the capital of the Andaman Islands. Tragically, the 2 elders died of disease shortly after, likely due to their lack of immunity to outside pathogens. The children were eventually returned to the island, but the event left a lasting impact on the tribe's perception of outsiders. For nearly a century following that incident, North Sentinel remained largely undisturbed. Its isolation was partially protected by the surrounding coral reefs, which made navigation treacherous for even the most experienced sailors. However, accidental contact would occasionally occur, most notably in the year 1981, when the cargo ship Primrose ran aground on a reef just off the island's coast. The crew, stranded and awaiting rescue, reported seeing groups of armed Sentinelese watching them from the shoreline. Though they were never attacked directly, the threat was clear. The crew was eventually rescued by helicopter and the ship was left to decay in the shallows. Between the years 1967 and 1991, a series of government-sponsored contact expeditions took place. Led primarily by anthropologist Triloknath Pandit and supported by the Indian government, these attempts involve cautiously approaching the island by boat, leaving gifts such as coconuts, bananas, and iron tools on the beach, and then retreating without direct engagement. During some of these visits, Sentinelese individuals would appear on the shore, occasionally taking the offerings, or watching silently from the tree line. But even after decades of trying, no sustained, peaceful contact was ever established. In the year 1991, Pandit declared the efforts a failure and ended the program. He later stated that continued contact risked damaging the tribe both physically and culturally. By that point, the risks of introducing diseases to a population with no immunity had become more widely understood, and India began to shift its policy from outreach to protection. One of the most defining moments in recent history came in the year 2006, when 2 fishermen illegally approached the island to fish for crabs. Their boat drifted too close to the shore overnight and was found the next morning, abandoned and damaged. The men had been killed, their bodies visible from a distance, but impossible to retrieve due to the tribe's hostile response to recovery attempts. This event reinforced the island's deadly reputation and re-emphasized the Indian government's stance on absolute non-interference. Since then, the Indian government has maintained a strict exclusion zone around the island, prohibiting any approach within 3 nautical miles. Patrols are carried out by the Indian Navy and Coast Guard to enforce this buffer and prevent illegal contact. North Sentinel has, in effect, become one of the most off-limits places on Earth. These encounters, both deliberate and accidental, paint a picture of a people who have made a clear choice to remain isolated. Their reactions are not those of ignorance or fear, but of deliberate defense. Each interaction with the outside world has been met with caution or aggression, and their history makes one thing unmistakably clear: the Sentinelese want to be left alone. In the modern world, there are very few places where national law stops at the shoreline, but North Sentinel Island is one of them. Although it lies within Indian territory, the island exists in a legal and administrative gray zone that has been carefully constructed to ensure one thing: total isolation. The Indian government, recognizing the Sentinelese people's desire to remain untouched, has gone to great lengths to create policies that protect the tribe from the outside world and protect the outside world from them. In the year 1956, the island was officially designated as a tribal reserve under the Andaman and Nicobar Protection of Aboriginal Tribes Regulation. This early law prohibited any travel within 3 nautical miles of the island without special permission. Over time, the regulation became increasingly strict, especially after failed contact attempts and fatal encounters underscored the danger of uninvited visits. By the early 2000s, the Indian government had shifted from outreach to passive protection. In the year 2005, North Sentinel was removed from India's official tourism maps. 3 years later, in 2008, the government fully banned any approach or photography of the island, citing public safety and the tribe's vulnerability to disease. These restrictions remain in place today, enforced by regular patrols from the Indian Navy and Coast Guard, who monitor the surrounding waters and intercept any unauthorized boats. The Sentinelese are unique in that they are one of the few groups on Earth not subject to national law in any conventional sense. Indian authorities have repeatedly emphasized that the tribe is to be left alone, even in extreme circumstances. For example, after the deaths of 2 fishermen in the year 2006 and American missionary John Allen Chow in the year 2018, Indian officials made it clear that no arrests would be made and that the tribe would not be held legally accountable. The priority, they stated, was to avoid further contact or conflict. Internationally, the treatment of the Sentinelese has prompted both praise and debate. Human rights organizations, including Survival International, have voiced strong support for India's hands-off approach, arguing that uncontacted tribes should be allowed to live without interference. The United Nations has also acknowledged the tribe's right to self-isolation, highlighting North Sentinel as an example of extreme cultural preservation. However, the island has also raised difficult questions. What happens if a plane crashes near its shores? What if a Sentinelese individual seeks help or is injured? To these hypotheticals, the Indian government has offered a consistent reply: non-intervention. Their stance is clear: unless the tribe itself initiates contact, the rest of the world must stay away. Even in the age of satellites and global internet, the island remains invisible in a legal and cultural sense. No census includes them. No Indian law is actively enforced within their borders, and no roadmap exists for their future. In a world increasingly connected, North Sentinel Island stands defiantly alone, protected not just by distance, but by law and intent. Despite international protections and the Indian government's firm policies, North Sentinel Island has not always remained untouched. A handful of fatal encounters over the decades have thrust the island into the global spotlight and served as sobering reminders of the invisible boundary that must not be crossed. One of the earliest and most shocking incidents occurred in the year 1981. The cargo ship MV Primrose ran aground on a coral reef just off North Sentinel's coast during a storm. Stranded for several days, the crew reported seeing small figures emerging from the forest and approaching the wreck with bows and arrows. The men radioed for emergency rescue, and a helicopter eventually airlifted them to safety before a confrontation occurred. The wreckage of the Primrose remains rusting near the reef to this day, a ghostly reminder of that close call. In the year 2006, 2 Indian fishermen, Sundar Raj and Pandit Tiwari, were illegally poaching crabs in the waters near North Sentinel. Their boat drifted too close to the island and was found the next day with both men reportedly killed by the Sentinelese. The Indian Coast Guard attempted to recover their bodies using a helicopter, but were forced to retreat after being met with a volley of arrows. The bodies were never retrieved. Instead, officials decided to respect the tribe's isolation and ended the search. Perhaps the most well-known incident occurred in the year 2018, when American missionary John Allen Chow attempted to make contact with the tribe. Believing it was his religious duty to bring Christianity to the Sentinelese, he paid local fishermen to smuggle him close to the island. After a failed first attempt where he was shot at by arrows, he returned days later. According to the fishermen, Chow was seen being struck and dragged away by tribesmen. His body was never recovered. The story made international headlines and reignited debate over whether any contact with uncontacted peoples should be attempted. These incidents have all ended the same way, either with retreat or tragedy. The consistent thread is the tribe's determination to defend its land and the world's eventual acceptance that their wishes must be respected. Each time the boundary has been crossed, the Sentinelese have responded with hostility, not out of malice, but out of a deep and generational instinct for survival. Their way of life has remained intact because of this fierce resistance. The Indian government's reaction to each of these events has been notably restrained. There have been no attempts at retaliation, no arrests, and no forced recoveries. Instead, officials have repeatedly emphasized that these incidents only strengthen the case for strict non-interference. Over time, these encounters have become cautionary tales, a warning to adventurers, missionaries, and tourists alike. This island is not a place to visit. Today, these stories serve as some of the only documented interactions with the tribe. In a world where even the remotest places are captured by drones and mapped in high resolution, North Sentinel remains an enigma, a place whose history is written not in books or broadcasts, but in silence, distance, and finality. In a world where satellite images peer into every crevice of the Earth and GPS can pinpoint nearly every structure ever built, North Sentinel Island remains a blank spot, an anomaly of absence. It is a reminder that even in the 21st century, not everything can be catalogued, contacted, or understood. Protected under the Andaman and Nicobar protection of Aboriginal tribes regulation and reinforced by Indian law since the year 1956, the island is one of the few remaining territories where enforced inaccessibility is not only permitted but required. No aerial surveys, no anthropological missions, and no diplomatic negotiations. This is not out of neglect, but out of respect. For anthropologists, North Sentinel represents a paradox. It is one of the most culturally significant uncontacted societies on Earth, yet studying it, at least by modern academic standards, is impossible. Unlike other indigenous groups who have partially opened their worlds to researchers, the Sentinelese have remained entirely sealed off. No known exchange of language, no recorded interviews, and no detailed census exist. Their isolation has preserved not only their genetics, but also their worldview, one completely untouched by electricity, written language, or outside influence. There is no guarantee that this isolation will last forever. Rising sea levels pose a long-term threat to the Andaman and Nicobar archipelago. Environmental shifts, increased maritime traffic, and illegal fishing could one day draw outside attention closer than ever before. Some scientists worry that even indirect contact, like drifting plastic or airborne disease, could be enough to change the tribe's trajectory permanently. Still, for now, North Sentinel Island remains silent, both figuratively and literally. It has no ports, no roads, no airstrips, and no formal name in any outside language. What little we do know has come from accidental sightings, distant aerial footage, and carefully restricted governmental observations. The gaps in our knowledge are not from oversight, but by design. The questions that surround the Sentinelese remain unanswered, not because we have not asked, but because they have refused to answer, and the world has begun to listen. In many ways, North Sentinel is more than just a geographic location. It is a mirror held up to modern civilization, reflecting our need to explore and understand, even when understanding is neither possible nor welcomed. It reminds us that some mysteries do not need solving, and that the truest form of respect is distance. As the rest of the planet accelerates toward globalization, artificial intelligence, and interconnectedness, North Sentinel stands still, firm in its silence, certain in its solitude, and unwilling to surrender its story to history books or headlines. It is a place that challenges our assumptions, humbles our knowledge, and leaves us with one final truth. Not every corner of the world was meant to be known. Imagine a place on Earth more alien than anything on Mars or the Moon. A realm so deep that if you drop Mount Everest into it, the peak would still be swallowed by more than a mile of ocean. This isn't science fiction, it's the Mariana Trench, a hidden world in the western Pacific Ocean that stretches for over 1,500 miles. It plunges down to nearly 36,000 feet, a depth that pushes the very limits of what we know about life and Earth itself. This trench isn't just the deepest part of the ocean, it's one of the most extreme environments anywhere on the planet. Total darkness, near freezing temperatures, and pressures that could crush a submarine surround everything that dares to live there. Yet life does exist in this brutal zone. In fact, the more we explore it, the more we realize just how little we truly understand about Earth's last great frontier. The Mariana Trench is not just a geological scar, it's a gateway to a world of strange creatures, unexplained sounds, bizarre ecosystems, and deep scientific mystery. And we're only beginning to uncover its secrets. Let's dive deeper and start with what life looks like in this crushing, otherworldly place. At depths beyond 20,000 feet, we enter what is known as the Hadal Zone, named after Hades, the Greek god of the underworld. This region, which includes the Mariana Trench, begins around 6,000 meters and extends to the ocean's deepest point. The trench alone accounts for nearly half of the ocean's depth, yet it covers only about 1 to 2% of the seafloor. Despite its limited area, it holds some of the most extreme conditions found anywhere on Earth. Down here, pressure reaches over 15,700 pounds per square inch. That is enough force to crush most submarines and distort the very proteins that life depends on. Temperatures hover just above freezing. And there is no natural light, no sunlight, no photosynthesis, and no traditional food chain. Yet life not only exists, it thrives. Microorganisms have adapted by using special molecules called piezolytes to keep their cells from collapsing under pressure. Enzymes in these organisms are uniquely structured to function in the cold and crushing dark. Some of the deepest studies, like those from the Mariana Trench Environment and Ecology Research Project, have shown us a complex microbial world that challenges our understanding of biology. These life forms are not only surviving, they are actively forming ecosystems. By feeding on chemical reactions, falling organic matter, or even minerals from the seafloor, they build a web of life completely detached from sunlight. And this is only the beginning. In the next part, we'll meet the strange, almost alien creatures that have evolved in these depths. Creatures that look more like science fiction than anything familiar. The deeper we explore the Mariana Trench, the more surreal the life forms become. These creatures are not science fiction, they are real animals perfectly adapted to survive where sunlight has never reached, where pressure would crush nearly anything from the surface. Evolution in the trench has taken some truly strange paths, producing organisms that defy our expectations of what life can look like. One of the most extraordinary examples is the Xenophyophora. Despite being a single-celled organism, it can grow up to 4 inches long, about the size of a mango. These giant, fragile cells drift along the seafloor at depths beyond 10,600 meters. Scientists still do not fully understand how they maintain their delicate structure under such intense pressure, but they play an important role in deep-sea ecosystems by filtering and trapping organic material. Another standout is the Hadal snailfish, Pseudoleparus suaire, found as deep as 8,000 meters. Its translucent, gelatinous body has no swim bladder and no hard bones, which would collapse under pressure. Instead, it moves gracefully in groups and feeds on tiny crustaceans that drift through the water. These ghostly fish are now recognized as the deepest living fish ever discovered. Smaller but no less impressive are amphipods like Hirondellea gigas, which grow unusually large in the trench. These scavengers thrive in the extreme cold, cleaning up organic debris that falls from above. Meanwhile, predators like the dragonfish prowl the depths with glowing lures and nearly invisible teeth. The dragonfish uses bioluminescence to hunt in total darkness, a biological adaptation that helps it survive in an environment where energy is scarce and hunting opportunities are rare. Then there is the Dumbo octopus, a soft-bodied cephalopod with ear-like fins that help it navigate the abyss. It holds the record as the deepest living octopus ever found, discovered near hydrothermal vents and isolated undersea ridges. Instead of relying on chance encounters to mate, it stores sperm for later use, an evolutionary workaround for a world where partners may be few and far between. The diversity of life here is stunning, but scientists estimate that we have only documented about 10% of the species that actually live in the deep ocean. Every new expedition into the trench brings discoveries that expand our definition of life on Earth. But it's not just what we can see that fascinates researchers. The trench also holds mysteries we can hear. In the next part, we'll explore the eerie and unexplained sounds that echo through the darkness of the deep. While the Mariana Trench is cloaked in perpetual darkness, it is far from silent. In fact, the deep sea is filled with strange, sometimes unexplainable sounds. These echoes travel vast distances through water, bouncing off canyon walls and drifting through miles of empty space. Some are biological, others are geological, and a few remain unsolved mysteries that hint at unknown forces or life forms. One of the most famous unexplained sounds recorded in the Pacific was the bloop, picked up in the summer of 1997. Using hydrophones originally designed to monitor submarines during the Cold War, researchers detected an ultra-low frequency sound that was so loud it was heard over 3,000 miles apart. Its profile resembled that of an animal call, which led to wild speculation. Could it have come from an enormous creature living undetected in the trench? Later studies suggested it may have come from icequake activity, like icebergs cracking and moving. But the original recording still captures the imagination because the exact source has never been conclusively proven. In 2014, researchers deployed autonomous underwater gliders near the Mariana Trench to monitor sound. That's when they caught another strange audio event, later dubbed the Western Pacific Biowang. This sound lasted roughly 2.5 to 3.5 seconds and included multiple layers. It began with a low-frequency moan, then rapidly shifted into a high-pitched metallic twang. The sound was so odd and complex that some described it as resembling science fiction space engines. For several years, its origin stumped oceanographers. It wasn't until 2018 that researchers finally connected the biotwang to a specific animal, the bride's whale. By analyzing over 200,000 hours of acoustic data and matching the sound patterns with known whale migrations, scientists confirmed that male bride's whales were responsible for the call. They believe it may be part of a mating display, though the exact meaning and function of the sound are still under study. These deep-sea sounds show how much remains unknown in the trench. Every strange frequency recorded could be a clue to geological activity, new species, or behavior we do not yet understand. And in the Mariana Trench, sound is often the first, and sometimes only, evidence we have of what is happening in the blackness below. But just as sound tells part of the story, the trench's formation and behavior reveal even more about how our planet works, which we'll explore next. The Mariana Trench is not just a static abyss, it is a dynamic, ever-changing scar on the Earth's crust, shaped by immense geological forces that have been grinding away for tens of millions of years. Its existence is the result of one of the planet's most powerful natural mechanisms, subduction. This is where one tectonic plate is slowly forced beneath another, a process that continues to mold the planet's surface. The trench marks the boundary where the enormous Pacific plate is diving underneath the smaller Mariana plate. This collision zone is one of the most geologically active places on Earth. As the plates interact, massive amounts of energy build up along the fault lines. That energy is occasionally released as earthquakes, some of which are strong enough to reshape the seafloor and trigger tsunamis. While most of these earthquakes go unnoticed on the surface, they play a vital role in maintaining the planet's internal balance. The trench itself stretches for over 1,500 miles, forming part of what's called the Izu-Bonin-Mariana Arc System. This arc system is home to numerous seamounts, ridges, and underwater volcanoes. These features are not just geological curiosities, they are crucial for understanding how ocean crust is recycled back into the Earth's mantle. As the Pacific plate descends, it melts and creates magma that can eventually rise and form volcanic islands like those found nearby in the Mariana Islands chain. One of the most intriguing discoveries in recent years is the presence of deep-sea mud volcanoes and serpentinized rocks in the trench zone. These rocks form under extreme pressure and release hydrogen and methane as they react with seawater. That release of gases fuels microbial life, offering a chemical-based food chain that operates independently from sunlight. This is a key piece in understanding how life might arise on other planets or moons where similar extreme conditions could exist. Hydrothermal vents have also been detected in nearby regions, spewing superheated, mineral-rich water from beneath the crust. These vents are like underwater geysers, surrounded by unique ecosystems of tube worms, clams, and bacteria that thrive on the chemical soup they provide. Though not yet fully mapped in the deepest parts of the trench itself, these systems are believed to exist along its flanks, contributing to its complex geological activity. Together, these forces make the Mariana Trench a vital window into Earth's inner workings. The pressures, temperatures, and tectonic motion taking place here are unlike anywhere else on the planet. But while Earth's forces shape the trench from below, it's the human desire to explore that pushes us to understand what lies within. And that's what we'll explore next. Venturing into the Mariana Trench has long captured human imagination, but turning that curiosity into actual exploration is no small feat. The conditions at these depths push technology, engineering, and human endurance to their limits. Pressure down there can exceed 1,000 times the atmospheric pressure at sea level, making every dive a battle against forces that would instantly crush ordinary equipment. The first manned expedition to reach the bottom was in 1960 when the bathyscaphe Trieste, piloted by Jacques Piccard and Don Walsh, descended into the Challenger Deep. Their trip was historic but brief, and the technology at the time allowed only limited scientific observations. Since then, progress has been slow but steady, with remote-operated vehicles and unmanned probes increasingly used to gather data without risking human life. In 2012, filmmaker and explorer James Cameron made a solo dive in the deep-sea Challenger submersible. His mission combined cutting-edge materials and new design techniques to withstand the immense pressure. Cameron's dive lasted nearly 3 hours, during which he captured high-definition footage that gave scientists an unprecedented view of the trench's environment. More recently, Victor Vescovo's expeditions with the limiting factor submersible have set new records for depth and repeat dives. These missions have focused on detailed mapping, collecting geological samples, and documenting deep-sea creatures in their natural habitat. Advances in materials like titanium and specially designed syntactic foams help these vessels survive pressures over 1,000 atmospheres. Lighting the trench is another challenge. Sunlight does not reach these depths, so explorers rely on powerful external lights. However, these lights can disturb fragile animals or alter natural behaviors, so scientists must balance the need for observation with the goal of minimizing impact. Communication during deep dives is also limited. Radio waves do not travel far underwater, so most data and videos are stored on board and retrieved after surfacing. This delay means explorers often have to make decisions without real-time input, adding to the complexity of missions. Despite these obstacles, exploration continues because the Mariana Trench offers unique scientific opportunities. It helps researchers understand life's limits, plate tectonics, and Earth's geology. Plus, it satisfies a basic human urge to explore the unknown. Future expeditions aim to establish long-term monitoring stations and deepen our knowledge of microbial life and geology in this remote realm. This spirit of discovery is what keeps pushing us to the very edge of the world's deepest frontier. The Mariana Trench's mysterious nature has made it fertile ground for myths and imaginative stories. Its vast darkness and inaccessibility invite speculation where scientific knowledge leaves gaps. Over the years, many legends and theories have taken root, blending human creativity with the unknown. One popular idea is that massive undiscovered creatures lurk deep within the trench. Tales speak of kaiju-sized beasts or enormous sea monsters that have evaded detection by modern technology, while science has revealed some unusually large or strange creatures like giant xenophyrophories and deep-dwelling snailfish. There is no credible evidence of gigantic monsters lurking in the abyss. Another common theory involves secret government operations. Some speculate that hidden military bases or research labs exist within the trench's remote canyons, possibly for testing advanced technology or studying unexplained phenomena such as unidentified submerged objects. The extreme difficulty in monitoring the area makes such stories plausible to some, but no verified information supports these claims. Stories about lost civilizations also circulate. Enthusiasts propose that remnants of ancient cultures, perhaps like the mythical Atlantis, could be buried beneath the trench's crushing depths. Proponents often point to unclear sonar images or unusual underwater formations as hints. However, geology shows that the trench is a subduction zone where oceanic crust is drawn down and recycled into Earth's mantle, making the preservation of such structures extremely unlikely. Even so, these ideas highlight how the Mariana Trench captures human fascination beyond pure science. The blend of reality and imagination underscores our enduring desire to explain the unknown, and the trench remains a symbol of both mystery and discovery. As exploration continues, separating fact from fiction will remain an important part of understanding this extraordinary place. As we wrap up our journey into the Mariana Trench, it's clear this remote part of our planet still holds countless secrets waiting to be uncovered. Despite decades of exploration and the incredible technology developed to brave its crushing depths, more than 80% of the ocean remains unmapped and largely unexplored. The trench itself represents one of the final frontiers on Earth, a place where science meets mystery in a profound way. Recent discoveries continue to surprise us. In early 2025, researchers reported dozens of new species in the trench, ranging from glowing deep-sea fish to giant microbes previously unknown to science. Some estimates suggest nearly 90% of microbial genomes found there are completely new, highlighting just how little we truly know about life in the deep. Studying this environment not only expands our understanding of biology and geology, but also teaches us about the limits of life on Earth. The extreme pressure, cold temperatures, and total darkness push the boundaries of what living things can endure. Each expedition brings fresh insights into Earth's dynamic inner workings and the resilience of life in its most unlikely places. Looking ahead, future missions will likely focus on detailed mapping, long-term monitoring, and deeper investigations into the trench's unique ecosystems. These efforts will require continued advances in technology and global cooperation. The Mariana Trench remains a symbol of human curiosity and the enduring allure of the unknown. It reminds us that even in the 21st century, our own planet holds mysteries as vast and profound as any found in space. The deep sea's darkest depths invite us to keep exploring, questioning, and learning, because the story of the Mariana Trench is far from over. Lake Vostok is one of the most mysterious places on Earth, hidden beneath Antarctica's thick ice sheet. It is the largest of Antarctica's subglacial lakes, sitting nearly 4,000 meters beneath the ice, in a region known as the Southern Pole of Cold. Despite being buried under ice for millions of years, this massive lake remains a body of liquid water, sealed away from the outside world. The existence of Lake Vostok was first suspected in the late 1950s by Russian geographer Andrei Kapitsa. He studied seismic data from the Soviet Antarctic expeditions and noticed something unusual beneath the ice. Over the next few decades, scientists from Russia, Britain, and the United States continued to study the area using radar and satellite technology. Finally, in 1993, a researcher named J.P. Ridley confirmed the presence of the lake using laser altimetry from the ERS-1 satellite. Lake Vostok is massive, roughly the size of Lake Ontario. Unlike other lakes on Earth, it has been completely sealed off from the atmosphere for an estimated 15 to 25 million years. This means that whatever is living in the lake, if anything, is completely isolated from the rest of the planet. Scientists believe that if microbial life exists in this extreme environment, it could help us understand how life might survive in similar conditions on other planets. One of the reasons Lake Vostok has remained liquid for so long is the thick ice above it. The weight of the ice creates immense pressure, lowering the freezing point of water. Additionally, geothermal heat from the Earth's interior provides enough warmth to keep the lake from turning into solid ice. Because of this, Lake Vostok is one of the few places on Earth where water has been trapped in isolation for such an extended period. Despite its isolation, the lake is not completely cut off from the world above. The ice above Lake Vostok slowly moves, and over time, new layers of ice form, while old layers sink deeper. This process could allow for some exchange of materials, but scientists are still studying how this movement affects the lake's ecosystem. The discovery of Lake Vostok raised many questions. What secrets are hidden in its waters? Could there be life thriving in the darkness below? Scientists have worked for decades to find answers, but exploring a lake buried under kilometers of ice is no easy task. As we continue, we will explore how scientists have attempted to reach Lake Vostok, the challenges they have faced, and the controversies surrounding their research. Reaching the Lake Vostok has been one of the most difficult challenges in Antarctic exploration. Scientists knew that drilling through nearly 4,000 meters of solid ice would take years, and the risk of contaminating the pristine lake was a major concern. Researchers had to develop careful drilling methods to avoid introducing modern bacteria or chemicals into the ancient water. The first serious attempt to drill down to the lake began in the 1990s, led by Russian scientists at Vostok Station. Instead of drilling directly into the lake, they first removed ice samples from above it. These ice cores, taken from the upper layers of the glacier, helped scientists learn about Antarctica's climate history and provided clues about what might be in the lake below. However, drilling too deep risked accidentally releasing water from the lake, which could ruin the untouched environment. To prevent contamination, Russian researchers used a special technique called thermal drilling, combined with a kerosene-based antifreeze. While this helped to keep the borehole open, some scientists worried that the chemicals could seep into the lake. The debate over the best way to reach the lake without harming it continued for years, leading to disagreements between research teams from different countries. In February of 2012, after more than 2 decades of careful drilling, the Russian team finally broke through the last layers of ice and reached the lake's surface. However, instead of extracting water immediately, the pressure from below forced lake water up into the borehole, where it quickly froze. This frozen sample provided scientists with their first glimpse of what was hidden in the depths of Lake Vostok. Further analysis of the ice revealed traces of microbial life, suggesting that despite its extreme isolation, Lake Vostok might not be completely lifeless. However, these findings were met with skepticism, as some researchers argued that the microbes could have come from drilling equipment rather than the lake itself. To settle the debate, more samples needed to be collected, but doing so without contaminating the lake remained a challenge. In the next part, we'll look at what scientists discovered in these samples, what they believe could be hiding in the depths of Lake Vostok, and how this research connects to the search for life beyond Earth. The discovery of possible microbial life in Lake Vostok raised an exciting question. Could an ecosystem exist in complete isolation beneath Antarctica's ice? If so, it would mean that life had survived in total darkness, under extreme pressure, and without direct contact with the atmosphere for millions of years. Scientists quickly set to work analyzing the frozen lake water extracted from the borehole. In 2013, Russian researchers announced that they had found genetic material from bacteria that did not match any known species. Some speculated that these microbes might be native to the lake, evolving independently over millions of years. However, the results were met with skepticism, as critics pointed out the possibility of contamination during drilling. To get more definitive answers, further drilling efforts were planned. However, accessing deeper samples while ensuring the lake remained uncontaminated proved to be an enormous challenge. Unlike surface lakes, which receive nutrients from rivers and the atmosphere, Lake Vostok has been cut off from external sources for millions of years. Scientists wondered whether geothermal heat from the Earth's interior could provide enough energy to sustain life. Some researchers suggested that hydrothermal vents on the lakebed might support microbial communities, much like deep-sea vents found in Earth's oceans. These vents release heat and minerals, creating an environment where life could thrive despite the lack of sunlight. If such an ecosystem existed in Lake Vostok, it would be one of the most extreme examples of life adapting to harsh conditions. This research also had implications beyond Earth. Scientists studying icy moons like Europa and Enceladus believe that similar subglacial lakes could exist beneath their frozen surfaces. If life could survive in Lake Vostok, it raised the possibility that extraterrestrial life might exist in the hidden oceans of these distant worlds. Despite these exciting possibilities, access to Lake Vostok remains difficult. The harsh Antarctic conditions make research operations expensive and dangerous, and environmental concerns continue to limit large-scale exploration. However, each new sample provides a small but valuable glimpse into one of the most mysterious and isolated ecosystems on the planet. As we wrap up, we'll explore the latest research efforts, the ongoing debate over how to study the lake responsibly, and what the future may hold for the search for life beneath Antarctica's ice. As research into Lake Vostok continues, scientists remain divided on the best approach to further exploration. The challenge lies in balancing scientific discovery with the need to protect the lake's pristine environment. Given that it has remained untouched for millions of years, even the smallest contamination could alter whatever ecosystems might exist beneath the ice. One proposed solution is to develop cleaner drilling methods, such as using sterile probes that can melt their way through the ice without introducing foreign materials. These probes would be equipped with cameras and instruments to analyze the lake's conditions in real time. However, developing technology that can function under such extreme pressure and temperatures remains a significant obstacle. In recent years, scientists have turned to indirect methods to study the lake's characteristics. Advanced radar mapping has provided a clearer picture of its depth and structure. These studies suggest that Lake Vostok may not be an isolated body of water, but part of a larger subglacial system connected to other hidden lakes beneath the Antarctic ice. This raises new questions about the movement of water beneath the ice sheet and how these lakes might interact. The search for life in Lake Vostok is also ongoing. Some researchers believe that instead of thriving in the open water, any life forms may exist in sediments at the bottom of the lake, where nutrients could accumulate over time. Studying these sediments could reveal not only whether life exists, but also provide insights into Antarctica's ancient climate history. As technology improves, future missions may be able to explore the lake more directly. If researchers can safely retrieve uncontaminated samples, it could change our understanding of how life survives in extreme conditions. These discoveries could have major implications for the search for extraterrestrial life, reinforcing the idea that life may exist in the ice-covered oceans of distant planets and moons. For now, Lake Vostok remains one of Earth's greatest scientific mysteries. Its hidden waters continue to challenge researchers, offering a glimpse into a world untouched by time. As new techniques are developed, the hope is that one day we may finally uncover the secrets locked beneath Antarctica's ice.